United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
All right, good morning. Roll call, starting with Chair Lena Ortega.
Here.
Vice Chair Walter Miller.
Here.
Mayor Antonio Araujo. Mayor Ivy Avalos.
Here.
Senator Cesar Blanco. Present. Senator Joseph Hernandez. Trent Doolittle. Present. Representative Art Fierro.
Present.
Representative Mary Gonzalez.
Present.
City Manager Tommy Gonzalez. Representative Cassandra Hernandez.
Here.
Yvette Hernandez. Commissioner Ileana Holguin. Representative Willie Madrid. Mayor Oscar Leeser.
Here.
Mayor Manuel Leos.
Here.
Representative Ceci Lizárraga.
Present.
Chuck McMahon.
Here.
Representative Joe Moody. Present. Alderman Esteban Olivas. Representative Claudia Ordaz Perez. Norma Palacios.
Here.
Mayor Javier Perea.
Present.
Representative Henry Rivera. Sam Rodriguez. Here. Mayor Benjamin Romero. Judge Ricardo Samaniego.
Present.
Alan Smythe.
Here.
Tomas Trevino. And Mayor Diana Trujillo.
Present.
Great, thank you. So we do have four.
Thank you. Anyone registered for public comment at this stage? I know we take it sometimes up depending on the item.
I do have, Anita Garza, she didn't specify what item she
Okay.
wanted to have public comment on.
So then I think we probably need to take her public comment now.
Sure.
She didn't specify?
That's correct.
She's on,
You want to call her name and then?
Elisa Garza?
Alisa Garza? Can she hear me?
Yeah. Ms. Garza, if you're there, can you please unmute your microphone and provide your public comment?
she can't hear us.
Ms. Alisa Garza, if you can unmute your microphone and provide your public comment.
Do we have a way of knowing whether she's still
Can
on?
you on?
Yes,
Hello?
Yes, we can. Yes,
Oh, okay. Thank
Oh,
you.
go ahead. And just a reminder that you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So good morning, everyone. My name is Alyssa Garza, and I am part of District 7. So I just wanted to voice my opinion on the building of the deck plaza. I'm against it, and if the NPO and the City of El Paso wants to create green spaces, they should be created in a sustainable and ethical way. Funding should be allocated to invest in our pre-existing parks, and the deck plaza is not the solution to creating green spaces. Additionally, I would like to emphasize we do have control on how much we pollute. If we invest in public transportation, create bike lanes, and make El Paso a walkable and accessible city, which most citizens want, then that would significantly reduce our need to drive cars and it would ultimately reduce emissions. We are in the middle of a climate crisis, and we saw what happened with the tornadoes. And the city of El Paso and the overall United States needs to be taking transformable action. So I don't think the deck plaza and the expansion of I-10 should be part of that action, and it is not the solution. So that's just something to keep in mind, that we do have control on how much we pollute, and it's not because we live in a desert. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Garza. All right, and then I assume the rest are actually listed as item 4?
4 and 5.
Five.
Four and
Okay.
five.
Then we'll call for public comment at the time the agenda item is coming up. We can now go to our agenda, item 1, to approve the minutes of October 22nd, 2022 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
A second, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Against? Motion passes. Item 2.
All right. Item 2 is to authorize the executive director to sign a letter of support for the City of El Paso's Economic Development Administration Economic Adjustment Assistance Grant application for the Stanton Street Corridor and Bridge Modernization and Expansion Feasibility Study. And we do have a presentation by David Coronado, who's going to do it through Teams, Marisol. So, David, if you're there, there you go.
Yeah, I'm here, Eduardo. Good morning, everybody, board members and chair. Thank you all for having this item on the agenda. We really appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 second. That way I can control the presentation slide.
Okay. So this is an item, I don't know if I said it, David Coronado with the City of El Paso. Sorry, for the record. So this is an item that we had on the agenda for the City Council this week on Tuesday. It was under consent, the consent agenda. It got approved by the City Council, got their support. And essentially what we are doing here is that, with this board, we're asking the board to authorize Eduardo Calvo to provide us with a letter of support for this application, for this grant application, for us to submit it. Our goal right now is to submit it before the end of the week, next week. And so right now we are doing the final touches, working on the final touches for the actual application. And I'll go through the elements of the project with you in a second here. But essentially, we're asking the board to authorize Eduardo to give us a letter of support, included as part of the backup for this application. Already we've received, I want to say more than 15, close to 20 letters of support from different agencies, from the Chamber of El Paso, the City of Juarez, the EPMPO, the planning office in Juarez, Transportistas, a lot of the folks with the Bridges Steering Committee that we oversee and essentially lead, as the City of El Paso. And so we received really good feedback from the entire committee. We presented this briefing to them at our last meeting this month, got really good support, got letters of support as well already from them. And so we're hoping that the MPO can also provide us with one for this project. It'll go a long way for sure. And so essentially right now, before I go into the elements, just to give you a little bit of context. So the City of El Paso, as you all know, we have ownership of 3 of the bridges within the El Paso city limits. And that essentially means that we maintain the structures, do the inspections, work with CDP, with Aduana, with all the stakeholders, which is why we have the Bridges Steering Committee. But we also collect tolls. And so it's a good revenue source for the city. But since 2014, 2015, we've really expanded our program to make sure that we reinvest back into the bridge system, use those revenues, put them back in the system. And we essentially have a program that essentially focuses on 4 elements. The first one is our CIP. We have our CIP, our list that was approved by the City Council just a few months ago. Got a few projects updated and new ones added. We have also our PD overtime. So we work with PD to provide traffic control, support at the city-owned bridges here at Stanton and at the Isleta Bridge especially. We also have the ability to use that funding for traffic control devices and improvements in the bridge system. And then lastly, we have our P3 program with CBP, and that's to supplement more officers, have more lanes open, and reduce wait time. So those are the 4 elements. This application and this project is going to complement our CIP and our traffic control improvements quite nicely. It's one of those big projects that we want to pursue. Here at Stanton, we have another one planned for Isleta as well. So we're trying to secure additional funding sources from the state or the federal government, in this case through the ARPA program, to essentially give us those resources to help complement our CIP, our limited funds, by pursuing these opportunities. So anyway, so with that said, let me go to the next slide. So like I said, so this is the outline, briefing on the EAA program, how it aligns with our plan, this application does, and then the elements and next steps. So like I said, this is the same briefing that the city council, had in the backup under the consent agenda, essentially asking them to support us, and also that we be allowed to commit 30% match in the event that we do get the award, and that translates to about $300,000. So we're requesting about just shy of $1 million in this grant. So it'll be about a $1.3 million project. So this application is going to go under the ARPA plan, the new pot of funding that we have available to us to compete. It's part of the $500 million that the EAA is offering under 6 programs. And in this case, the EAA program is essentially geared towards providing technical, planning, and construction support to communities in the U.S. to essentially recover much faster from the COVID pandemic, from the impacts that we've seen in this pandemic over the last 2 years. In this case, the elements of the application that we have today, they're working on today, is aligned quite nicely with our strategic plan, the 2025 and 2025 plan. We do have a goal to, make the bridges, state of the art, modernizing the bridges that we have right now, improve capacity, improve throughput, reduce wait times, and we do that in a number of ways. Like I said, the CIP, P3, and the other 2 elements. In this case, the elements of this application, each one of those is included within the recently approved master plan, the BTMP, the Border Transportation Master Plan, that TxDOT just completed, working with all the regions between El Paso, actually between Santa Teresa and Mexico, all the way to Brownsville. We're working with TxDOT, with the MPO and all the stakeholders for the last 2-3 years on this plan. It's been completed, and every single one of the elements in this application document is already shown as a need for our region. And so the application itself and the project is a feasibility study at the Stanton Street corridor and the Stanton Street Bridge. It's not just the bridge. We're also trying to explore improvements that are needed to manage congestion that we see along Stanton Street, all the way from the base of the bridge, actually from Juarez, as traffic backs up from Juarez into our facility, all the way to Paisano. If you drive here during peak hours, anytime after 3 o'clock during the week, you see that it's gridlock here. We have a lot of officers doing traffic control. We have barricades now trying to block vehicles from cutting the line. And so this is twofold. Essentially, one element is looking at those improvements, looking at how we can beautify the area, replicate what we have done on El Paso Street with the Paseo de las Luces program and how we've improved that corridor. We're trying to do the same here. And so again, it's a feasibility study to explore all those solutions, improve amenities for pedestrians, introduce ITS, parking, beautification improvements. And then the second element is essentially the actual port of entry. Can we expand the Sentry? Can we modernize the existing layout? Can we expand the port of entry, add dedicated bicycle lanes, dedicated bus lanes? So we're introducing multimodal solutions, not just for vehicles and not just for pedestrians. So we're trying to have a wide mix of elements in this grant application. Like I said, $1 million grant opportunity with a 30% match. And so, so these are the 6 elements that we have in the application. We have pedestrian amenities, shade canopies, green and open spaces, improved crosswalks, hog lights, raised crosswalks, things like that, trying to improve the environment out there for pedestrians. We also have, an element to beautify the area, improve traffic control measures along Stanton Street. And then the second half is ITS. So if we want to explore the ITS element as well here at this port of entry, and if constructed, eventually it would complete the entire bridge system in El Paso by complementing what we have right now with Rider 44, with TxDOT, at Isleta and at Boda. It essentially would complete the entire system for southbound vehicle trips. And then also the last 2 elements are key, a possible port expansion, possible acquisition of properties, looking at a full redesign, like I said, at having additional Sentry lanes, multimodal lanes, and then the port redesign. And so essentially, those are the elements of the application. Like I said, we are working right now on finalizing it, and the final elements. We're right now collecting the letters of support from all the stakeholders. It's a 30% match. It'll be funded by our P3 program. And so there's no impact to the general fund. It'll be fully funded by the bridge users, trying to get a letter of support. And the goal is to complete the application before the end of the year, but we're actually looking to complete it and submit it by next week. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any questions? It doesn't appear that we have any questions. Mr. Castro, any further comments on it?
No, I mean, just, again, this is I think a great opportunity. I mean, anything that we can do to improve our border crossings, we should, go after every single opportunity. So, we're personally, I'm very excited to be able to provide that letter. And, but of course, following the advice of our attorney, we need to bring this, to the board before I can provide a letter of support.
All right, is there a motion to authorize the executive?
Motion to approve, please. Rivera.
Second.
All right, great. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone?
Aye.
Motion passes.
One of those, just a quick comment. Any chance that, we've got our bridge at O'Neill, and is there any chance that we can sort of do something at any touch point that, I mean, we're gonna have to do the same eventually, and get traffic, but, is there any consideration or any opportunity to have that touch point with these grants? I'm sure we'd like that opportunity.
Asking if there is an opportunity
To do something similar like this for the Tornillo Guadalupe bridge crossing. And the answer is absolutely yes. I mean, the county can apply for these grants as well. I think it would be a really good idea. I mean, the issues that you have at Tornillo Guadalupe are very different from the issues that we have in the bridges that are closer to the urbanized area, right? But I think it would be a great idea for the county to pursue something like that.
Ours is infrastructure more than anything, because we didn't create infrastructure to draw in the traffic, and so that's what we need to work on, but that would be a huge opportunity for El Paso as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairwoman, I just want to bring to your attention that there's comments on the Teams that there's no audio on YouTube or.
Can we check into that?
Right.
Is there audio?
On the stream, you mean?
Yes, that's what I wanted to do.
Streaming and YouTube.
There should be, what happened is that
Bless you.
the internet went down.
She said the internet cut down. What else did she? Is it back up now?
Yes.
Okay, so we have it on YouTube and the streaming.
And also a reminder for those here in the room, can you please speak into the microphones? That helps a lot too. Thank you.
Item 3.
Item 3 is to approve the December 2021 project readiness report. And we have a feedback chair, Greg McNichol, here presenting, and MPO staff ready to answer any questions.
Good morning. Transportation Project Advisory Committee, Chair Greg McNichol. We have 4 items for you this morning. The first one is the quarterly report. We do annual every quarter, dealing with the project of the status of various projects. This particular cycle, we have 3 that are in the high category, 4 in the medium, and 3 in the low. And I am going to turn you forward to Jeff with the MPO staff to walk you through those.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, TPD members, Jeff Hall with the MPO. Item 3 on the agenda, as mentioned, is the December 2021 project readiness report. Today I'll provide you with an overview of the report that was provided as part of your backup. There are a total of 10 entities with a total of 28 projects as part of the readiness report for FY 22 to 24. As you may recall, we do include alerts on projects to let both you and the individual entities know that there may be issues slowing down projects when compared to our standard project development timeline. A low alert means that one element is not falling within the typical development timeline. A medium alert is 2 elements, and then a high alert is 3 or more. As mentioned, overall, the December readiness report, there are 3 low alerts, 4 medium, and 3 high alerts. To begin with the City of El Paso, only one of their projects has a low alert, which is the ITS infrastructure project. It just has one item specifically for the percentage completion with the environmental document not falling within the timeline. All of their other projects do seem to be on track. The next project with an alert is for Ana County, which in this case is a high alert for Industrial Avenue grade separation. The reason for the alert is that several elements include dates that have already passed. However, the items have not yet been completed. Moving on to El Paso County, a low alert has been placed on the John Hayes Phase 1 project. The PSC date has the same date as the let date. There were no alerts on the other projects, but did want to mention that one is an RMS 2020 project. The next is for the town of Horizon City. No issues that we could see, but another RMS 2020 project, with that being the North Barrington Reconstruction Project. Next is NMDOT, in which they have 2 projects with alerts. The first is for NM 404 widening project, which has a medium alert, as 2 dates have passed, with the items not yet being completed. And then the next is for NM 213, which has a low alert, as no dates were provided for the items. The next 2 entities, Socorro and Sun Metro, did not have any alerts. Sunland Park did have an item with a high alert, which is for the Rio Grande Trail Phase 2 project. It has a high alert as items are not falling within the timeline, and several dates have also passed with the items not being completed. And then finally, the last entity with project is TxDOT. 3 projects have medium alerts due to date issues, which are the Horizon at Darrington intersection, Loop 375 widening, and SH 178 operational improvements. And the last project with an alert, which is a high alert, is for Spur 320 Phase 1, which is due to several dates being shown after the let date. And several of the TxDOT projects are also RMS 2020 projects. And that concludes my presentation.
Are there any questions? Go ahead.
In this report, there's some that have the date November 10th and then some that have November 19th. What's the difference between those 2?
It's just when the actual report itself was printed. That's all it is. It's automatically generated by our database. So those dates up at the top are just when those actual sheets were generated.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Does that conclude the report then? And at this time, we just need a motion to approve the December 2021 project readiness report. Is there a motion? So moved. Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion to approve the report passes. Now we can move on to item number 4.
Item 4 is to amend the Destino 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, MTP, and amended Destino 2045 MTP to program the Downtown Deck Plaza project using Category 3 Public-Private Partnership funds in fiscal year 2025.
Now, at this stage, I believe there is public comment. Should we proceed with the public comment now or after discussion on the item? Public comment. Let's go ahead and proceed with public comment. You could call the first person on the list.
Mr. Bosworth?
Storch?
Good morning.
Good morning. I'd like to hear the presentation before I make my comments, but anyway.
3 minutes.
Yes. It appears that these agenda items are to add the deck park to the long-range planning and move the funding for some other projects off into the future. The recently passed infrastructure bill has sparked a national discussion on urban highway caps. Unfortunately, our local discussion on the subject is limited, and I believe intentionally designed to misdirect and confuse people about the unnecessary and destructive widening of Interstate 10 through downtown. The estimated cost of the deck park is $168 million. It's not even really a transportation project. This is in addition to the $750 million for the Downtown 10 project itself. Both of these projects are unfunded by TxDOT. That's nearly $1 billion. $1 billion that would otherwise be spent on more necessary transportation projects in the area, like the Northeast Bypass or extending the border highway past Zaragoza to the lower valley. The downtown deck park would cover only a few blocks on a 6-mile stretch of highway, wider highway, that would eventually be more congested. While it might reduce noise and air pollution in a 4 or 5 block area, the traffic pollution from the rest of the highway will continue to deteriorate the quality of life in the rest of the city. If you really want to talk about deck parks connecting neighborhoods, why not build one over US 54 and reconnect Government Hill and Austin Terrace? While claiming to reconnect uptown and downtown, the proposed deck park would actually reduce the current street connections over I-10, yet do nothing to reconnect Sunset Heights and the San Francisco Union Plaza area. The currently proposed downtown deck park is an expensive greenwashing over the expansion of a poorly planned highway that has divided El Paso since it was built. Let's build deck parks we can afford, where they are needed, and not expand highways that we don't need. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who is next?
Maya Sanchez.
Maya Sanchez?
Good morning, Board. Maya Sanchez, City of San Luis Rio. You all received the whole of this letter yesterday, but I'm going to read it in part. Honorable members of the TPB, at this early stage, the Downtown Deck Plaza appears to be a wonderful amenity, but the City of San Luis Rio would like to relay some concerns we hope the TPB keeps in mind as planning commences. The letter is intended to remind our region's stakeholders of gaps in necessary projects we don't want to see bypassed in lieu of predominantly amenities. And the judicious approach to this decision would be to first assess what significant compromises would need to be made of projects already identified as vital for our region. The City of San Luis Rio has a population of roughly 9,500 residents. The main thoroughfare in and out is a 2-lane TxDOT road, which also happens to be part of the nationally recognized historic Camino de Adentro. Yesterday, MPO staff responded to our request to receive info on inclusion of the BHE and MPO documents, and we'll be following up on this info in the new year. The agenda item presented specifically focuses on the Deck Plaza, but mentions being built in conjunction with or parallel to the Reimagine I-10 project. Thus, it appears the cost of $168,800,000 is only for the Deck Plaza and doesn't include the funds needed for the Reimagine I-10 portion of this corridor. Therefore, as a project unto itself, we must question where the transportation component lies in the Downtown Deck Plaza project. And as it relates to Reimagine I-10, we ask the TPB to seriously consider the implications of expanding the highway. Besides the increased cost, several have already expressed objections to historic neighborhoods being permanently changed and even blighted by this proposed option. Besides, we already have an alternate route that diverts traffic away from the core via Loop 375. It may be picked up on the far east side and reconnect to I-10 on the far west side. This is one of 3 options to travel from downtown to West El Paso. It's a clear priority for our community, the border highway east, but time is running out. The more populated the potential route becomes, the more difficult it will be for this project to come to fruition. And the project is of regional significance as it would exponentially add to our attraction as a destination for heritage tourism. It would allow Socorro Road, the Mission Trail, to become the scenic route. Thank you for your time and consideration on this matter. We wouldn't be serving our constituency nor our neighbors in the Mission Valley if we didn't raise the questions and concerns. You're asking several communities with no access to a highway to support an amenity park. And without solutions for these concerns, that's an extraordinary request. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Cito Negron.
Cito, okay, Cito Negron.
On the King's meeting.
Okay, there he is. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. I'm going to speak now since the other speakers already did, but I would respectfully ask that in future meetings, you all allow the public to the benefit of seeing the presentation first, because it may alter the comments, or there may be things in the presentation or that the presenters say that the public may want to respond to. So I'm respectfully making that request for future meetings. In terms of this meeting and item number 4, the Sunset Heights Neighborhood Improvement Association respectfully asks that you consider these items prior to committing our community to a $168 million amenity. And I should say that this is the first time we've seen a number attached with this. And I sent the letter in early this morning, so it's probably longer than 3 minutes. So hopefully y'all take a few minutes to read that letter, because it contains several questions in there, including whether or not this $168 million would be for the entire 6-block stretch of the proposed deck park, or as initially proposed, or the roughly half of that as proposed in the city's raise grant application that would be followed by a tax increment zone to create the funding to build out the rest if the zone were successful. So with that, some of the other points is that while a downtown amenity would be helpful to development efforts, its placement doesn't further equity or environmental mitigation goals, and we've heard some reference to that in the previous comments. Any project that uses inaccurate justifications is questionable on its face. The issues regarding equity and environmental mitigation exist mostly east of downtown and would be exacerbated by the proposed widening and addition of frontage roads in the 6-mile stretch from Copia to Executive. The deck proponents have adopted the language used to justify downtown 10, calling this improvements and attesting to its necessity, despite significant concerns that have been raised by Shania, Sunset Heights, and others. Therefore, the deck proponents are promoting a highway widening and frontage road project, while at the same time promoting a developer-driven amenity. The EPMPO TPB is really missing an opportunity for a progressive approach to freeways. Across the country, local leaders are initiating removal of freeways that cut through low-income minority and historic communities. Where possible, while it may currently not be possible, the community should be thinking big and into the future. This historic core of El Paso, roughly Fort Boulevard south from the Chamizal area west, was decimated by the freeway. And the closer to the freeway, the more value is lost and quality of life diminished. Instead of rethinking the I-10 corridor, and for that matter, US 54, we're considering doubling down. And in that context, the deck amenity becomes not a solution, but a very expensive Band-Aid, while regional solutions that could relieve corridor stress are on the table and should be prioritized. As you heard, residents in the East Valley are being cut off from El Paso because of a lack of progress on Border East, and the Northeast Bypass, now the Borderland Expressway, which was suddenly cut off in favor of Border West 15 years ago, would relieve some of the truck traffic on I-10. It must be a regional priority to provide options to remove trucks from I-10, not to
Mr. Negron, your 3 minutes are up.
I got it.
Can you please wrap up?
Thank you very much. I will wrap up. Thank you very much. Because of these issues and the other issues that you may read in that letter, we're respectfully asking that you postpone action on this item until we have a clear picture of the highway widening and frontage road proposal. That's the real project at stake here, what that will do to the neighborhoods east of downtown. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
So we have Mr. Carlos Gallina, who is on Teams.
Yes. I'm here this morning. My name is Carlos Gainar. I am speaking this morning as in different capacities. One, as a citizen of El Paso. Number two, as a resident of Sunset Heights, who loves my neighborhood, loves living close to downtown, loves living near UTEP. And then as a member of the Paso Norte Health Foundation's Deck Plaza Committee, recognizing that there are many issues that still need to be resolved, I encourage the TPB to pass both items 4 and 5. You know, when we look at the raise funds that were recently allocated to the city of El Paso, it's a huge amount of money, and so we congratulate the city, you know, for having the foresight to start working towards the deck park and the expansion of I-10. You know, when we look at parks in downtowns, it's something, at least for El Paso, that people have been talking about for over 20 years. I am hopeful that we are the generation that finally gets this right. Again, recognizing, folks, that there are still many questions that need to be answered, both from the TxDOT side and the deck plaza design and planning. And so that's why I am hopeful that the funding hopefully will be allocated to the deck plaza will help to start mitigating some of these concerns, start answering some of these questions. Finally, let me say this. Let me address the elephant in the room. I think myself, like many folks in the room, have friends, family, colleagues on both sides of this issue. Bob Storch, who just spoke recently, has very eloquently and very thoughtfully stated his case in favor of not building the deck plaza, in favor of not expanding I-10. Bob Storch is literally my neighbor. I have a great deal of respect for him. We have, in the past, literally spent time in my front porch drinking beers over this issue and discussing it. And at the end of the day, we give ourselves a hug, we shake hands, and we agree to disagree. So the reason I bring that up, folks, again, we recognize that there's still many questions that need to be resolved. The raise funds, I am hopeful, will start getting us to a position in which some of these questions are answered. We are now able to marry the planning and design of the deck plaza design and beautification of that amenity with the planning and engineering that TxDOT is currently going through. So again, congratulate the City of El Paso on the raise funds, congratulate the MPO on advocating for this project, and I am hopeful that the TPB would vote in favor of both items 4 and 5. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Yes,
Stephen Vogelweed.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Great. I want to thank the TPB for the opportunity to speak on this issue on behalf of the Chamber and its board. I am the VP of Performance and Innovation at the Chamber. The Chamber is the largest, oldest, and most diverse business organization in our region, and our members overwhelmingly see transportation as a critical pillar for improving economic development and quality of life in our region. There is overwhelming support within our organization for the deck plaza, and as a result, our board voted unanimously to pass a resolution of support for the deck plaza, as well as proudly supporting the city in its raise grant. We see the deck plaza as an extraordinary opportunity to do economic development and quality of life, not just for downtown, but for our region. The downtown deck park in Dallas is the #1 regional attraction. But in addition to that, we see it as a great opportunity to reconnect neighborhoods that were separated by I-10 and promote infill in the heart of our city. Because as you can see, you don't take care of the heart of your city, you don't grow as quickly as some of the other cities in Texas, which has consequences. In addition to that, we also see this as a great opportunity to improve walkability in our downtown, access to healthcare and downtown amenities, and maybe more critically, we see it as an opportunity to grow jobs in our region. So I want to end by thanking the MPO, the city, and the county for their extraordinary leadership and forward thinking on the deck plaza and on transportation in general. And we would strongly encourage you to vote in favor of both items 4 and 5. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Tracy Lemon?
In this case, Ms. Yellen provided a letter that I will read into the record.
Tracy Yellen, CEO, Paso del Norte Community Foundation, Paso del Norte Health Foundation. Thank you so much for the opportunity to submit these comments in support of inclusion of the downtown deck plaza in the MPO's long-range plan, RMS 2050, and Destino 2045. As you may know, the Paso del Norte Community Foundation established the Downtown Deck Plaza Foundation to support the design and construction of a deck plaza over I-10 in the downtown core. The Paso del Norte Foundation came to the Deck Plaza project by way of our work creating a master plan for a 68-mile trail across El Paso County. We are pleased to report, thanks to collaboration and engagement of multiple stakeholders, that we'll have more than 23 miles of the trail completed by late 2022, including all 8.3 miles of the Playa Drain Trail from Escarate Park to Capistrano Park. and new segments approved for funding in Favens and Tornillo. These hike and bike and green spaces have been incredibly popular with residents across our community, making active living the easy choice for the residents of our region. The Deck Plaza will be another amenity that residents from throughout the region can enjoy. Given the recent approval of the $900,000 raised planning grant to the City of El Paso for the Deck Plaza from the U.S. Department of Transportation, the passage of the federal infrastructure bill, and TxDOT's plan for I-10 in the downtown corridor, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to create a regional green space and amenity over I-10 that will also reconnect the neighborhoods on either side. The RAISE grant, for which the Downtown Deck Plaza Foundation will raise and contribute another $180,000 to support the matching fund requirement, is a great opportunity to work with a community of the size and footprint, needed amenities, and how to piece together the funding to cover the cost of construction. We are committed to leveraging as many external dollars as possible and raising private funds to support the project as well. We've seen this model work in cities with more than 20 deck plazas in places across the U.S., including cities as close as Phoenix and Dallas, with dozens more in the planning process, including Austin, Houston, and the second project in Dallas. We look forward to doing all that we can to create a state-of-the-art alternative transportation and green space here. Thank you for your work on a comprehensive transportation plan for our region and your consideration of including the Deck Plaza project in the EPMPO's long-range plan.
Thank you. Anybody else? Next?
Angel Ulloa.
Angel Ulloa. Present or online?
He should be on Teams.
Mr. Ulloa? Mr. Angel Ulloa?
Okay. Anyone else? No. And now we can proceed with the agenda item.
All right, Madam Chair, to start the item, I just want to put some, provide some background on why it is important to put these items, both 4 and 5A, which relate to the deck. First of all, the include item 4, which is to add the Deck Plaza project overall into the long-range plan, is required to have access to any federal funding, including the RAISE grant. Okay.
Hello. I'm sorry, I couldn't mute. I'm here now.
What can we do?
If that's Angel Uloya, sorry, let's
Yeah.
go ahead and take Republic.
It is Angel? All right, let's go ahead and proceed. Go ahead and proceed now.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Angel Ulloa. I am hoping that what I have to say will encourage MPO TPB to reconsider the deck park. Well, the price tag for this is currently at approximately $168 million, which is quite hefty considering that TxDOT expects this money to be funded by private sources, donations, and the City of El Paso, which is subliminal for higher taxes through tax increment financing, where this property tax could be dispersed throughout citywide projects instead of going to one development. I'm glad the gentleman who provided presentation earlier mentioned the entryway to Juarez, because it has indeed increased congestion in that area, and all around is just not working like it was probably intended to. So I'm very surprised that this $900,000 federal grant that the city received is going towards developing a design study, not even the full deck park, but a study of the deck park, instead of fixing the issues that we're currently seeing, such as this port of entry. I don't know. The way that Escobar is toting this around as if the deck park will actually do anything for the city is very disappointing, but at the same time, I'm not surprised. You would think that more idle cars would be concerning to our elected officials, considering that we are now in a non-attainment zone. It just seems like that would be an issue that we would want to tackle first. I guess to finish this off, I don't know how much time I have. There are way better uses for the $900,000, especially $168 million. We could start at reconnecting neighborhoods that these highways themselves have destroyed,
creating significantly more bike lanes. That is a huge problem in this city. Developing more walking trails or just safer sidewalks in general, increasing or bettering our public transportation because Sun Metro is not pulling its weight, and it's creating huge inconveniences for those that frequently use public transportation. And these are just a few on the list. There are many better ways that this money can be allocated. So for the good of our city, can MPO TPB please reconsider funding the development of this bike park? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cardinal.
So to continue with background, again, the reason why the Deck Plaza project itself has to be included is to have access to federal funds. The second thing, and this is also connected to 5A, which is the programming, the federal grant to conduct a feasibility study. That's precisely one of the main objectives of the feasibility study, to start giving it a better idea of what the Deck Plaza is. Right now, all we have are good ideas, good concepts, but we need to start doing a little more technical work to start, narrowing down the scope, what are the different alternatives, and clearly the cost estimate that was provided right now is a very high level estimate. Again, as the project starts developing through the feasibility study and hopefully through, in the future with more engineering, the cost estimate is going to be, we'll have a better idea of what it is that it truly means to build a Deck Plaza. So at this point, even though there's a number out there, it is, premature to think that that's going to be the exact estimate at this point. So with that, again, the item here is to program the Deck Plaza project in the MTP by itself. The raise grant, which is item 5A, we'll discuss it later, but of course they're connected.
Yes.
So, I think it's a good project, but there's still a lot of concerns we've been talking about, and I just want to clarify that by approving this item, we're not approving any type of budget. And I think that's what you're trying to tell us. We're just approving to see what federal grants are out there, and also to be able to kind of figure out what's going to cost. I think it's fair to say, though, when you say we're going to narrow it down, it could be up or down. It's not, it's not just because we're going to narrow it down, it's going to go down. There's still, what's going to happen with our economy and interest rates as we see are starting to float back up. So I think it's fair to say that even though that number's out there, it's a number that could go either direction. It could. So I think it's fair to say that. I think it's a great project. I think it's important that we're not programming a budget in it today. We're programming to see what federal grants and what's out there available for us to be able to move forward and the type of private partnership that could be out there. But my biggest concern has been, my concern since day one, is that we don't lock any projects that have been really essential to the city and the county and Horizon and everywhere around. It's been very essential to this organization that we're not, by doing this, we're going to give up funding that would really cost any of these programs moving forward.
And yeah, Mayor, you're absolutely right. The expectation or the anticipation at this point is that funding for the Deck Plaza would not come from the traditional funding sources that we use for transportation projects. It'll be a combination of private funds with other pots of money that could be federal. And as you know, with the new infrastructure bill, there is another pot of money where Deck Plazas could be eligible for. So, but today, the Deck Plaza, we don't anticipate, forcing other projects to move out or to delay them at this point. So that's
and
why
I think that was important to make sure that we talked about and that was brought up. Absolutely. Because I think that's one of the largest concerns. And by approving this today, we're not putting a timeline that it's going to be built within a certain date. Right now, it's just, again, because I think that was some of the calls and some of the things that are being read, that it was felt that if we approved it today, that this would put a timeline on building it and moving it forward today. Today is just be able to go out and find resources to be able to move forward and bring it back.
Exactly. And specifically for the city to move forward with a feasibility study.
Correct, and that's what I want to make sure that, because of some of the comments that were made, that we said that, and that we understand that what the items really mean today.
Any other questions? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. The issue is obviously very complex. There's a lot of needs in our communities, specifically in areas that are outside of the city. I think my questions are part of the reason, here's the complexity. Adding the deck plaza to the metropolitan, to Destino 2045 does not guarantee that we continue with the project. Is that accurate?
At this point, yes.
So adding it is just an opportunity for it to get funds. But here's my question. Do we have to add it to the plan in order for it to get funds?
Yes.
And can you explain why?
Well, specifically, the only way to get the raised funds into the city of El Paso is to program the project in the long-range plan and further in the TIP, right? So you know, they have to be in the plan.
It's a formality.
So I'm hearing two things. If it's a formality.
Yeah, it has to.
But have we ever gotten funding in other capacities without for a project that hasn't been in a plan?
Not if it's coming from the U.S. Department of Transportation. Whether it's a RAISE grant or a Fast Lanes grant or Bill grants or Tiger grants, yes, it clearly states that a project could be selected for funding for one of these grants, even if they are not at that point in the MPO plan. However, in order to access the money, these projects need to be in the MPO plan. So what happened was that when the city applied for the RAISE grant, as I just expressed, the project was not in the MPO plan, but they were selected, right? So that means something. So now we have to, as Mike said, it's more of a procedural thing to program it into the plan so that they can have access to the RAISE grant.
And just for clarification for people watching, are there any other projects that could have gotten or did get funding for this grant that are already on the plan?
I think this was the only project that was selected for this year's RAISE program. I believe that's the case. But RAISE is on an annual basis. There will be another call for projects for next year in the same way as with the Fast Lanes or whatever the current name is. These are yearly programs, so there's a great opportunity for everybody to apply for these grants.
There were other applications for a RAISE grant that were not selected.
My understanding is there's always lots of applications they're made.
They don't make it.
They don't make it, and it's a selection that's made by the federal government in terms of, yeah.
Absolutely. RAISE or Fast Lanes are national programs, so US DOT receives thousands of applications. It's super competitive, and the available funding is never enough for all the applications. So being selected for one is a really, really big thing.
And I totally appreciate that, and I understand that also adds a complexity to the complexity. I think for the people who maybe have seen their needs not met for a long time, feelings are valid, that this body is prioritizing what could be seen as something just icing on a cake. I think that there would be greater support if there was also a sense that projects like the Border Highway East were also being moved up in priority to the 2045 Destino plan. Does that make sense? And is that a topic that we could advance? I know it's on the agenda today, so potentially impossible, but it's hard to say let's support the advancement of something that is so big, even if we did get a small grant to start thinking through the planning, when there are other big projects that have been waiting for a decade or longer that haven't been moved up, and considering those communities that need to see equal support and advancement.
Did you want to, go ahead, did you want to say something?
Yeah.
Mr. Miller?
I think we need to clarify to this body that the MPO is not, this is not the MPO's draft. Someone else brought this. Another group completely took the initiative to go out and obtain these funds. Because of the procedure, it has to come to us.
Oh yeah, I'm not
But other
questioning
than
that, but
this body didn't, we did not go out for this grant. Another organization did, and when they were successful, then because of
the
we
process,
have to
we
do,
have a
it
decision
comes
in
to
front of us.
But this isn't an MPO initiative.
I fully understand that, but I, in full transparency, have gotten lots of calls from constituents, and constituents who are concerned and want to see equal support and advancement for very necessary projects on the eastern part of the county. And so all I'm asking for is for continued consideration for Border Highway East to be advanced into the 2045 Destino Plan, because if we're going to advance other projects, for whatever reason, we need to give a sense of equity and equality across all the entire region.
And let me just add something to your comment. That's exactly what we've been doing as a delegation in terms of when we're out there, I assure you, fighting for additional funding. So it's not because of lack of a voice, it's just that unfortunately funding is very competitive, and that's why we always have to continue to fight hard to obtain the funding. So any specific projects that come through the state is something that we as delegation members are fighting for and doing. And so but I guess what they're explaining is this is a completely different type of avenue in terms of where applications were being made, and that we're very fortunate that those monies, that this project was selected by the federal highway.
And this is not a critique to anybody saying that anyone has done anything wrong. This is a request that if we're moving project for whatever reason, I'm not saying totally understand the value, totally understand the process, but at the same time, don't want to maybe potentially have constituents feeling left behind in this process. And so want to speak to their voice and say, how can we make sure that we elevate some of these communities' voices at the same time?
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
And just to make sure that everybody knows that is exactly what the MPO does. You know, we look at the priorities. There's a lot of technical work that we as MPO staff that we do as far as modeling all the projections and all that. But the actual prioritization of projects, that's what this body does, right? I mean, you know, that's what we did with the RMS 2020 project. But bringing up these concerns and all that is part of the process. So absolutely, yes, you know, that will, your comments and the letter that was received from San Elizario will trigger a new discussion, and that's part of our process.
Thank you.
And I think it's great to kind of clear up in terms of where the funding is coming from. And transportation as a whole is a very difficult area in terms of all of the mechanisms and how it operates. So I think it's very good to get clarification on it. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so.
Yes, Madam Chair, I have some questions. This is Ian.
Who is it?
I'm sorry, who is this?
It's Ileana, Commissioner Holguín.
This is Ileana Holguín. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I understand that the feasibility study is going to answer a lot of the outstanding questions that we still have, but I'm hoping I can nonetheless get some additional information today as we consider this item. So as one of the public comment individuals pointed out, this is also the first time that I've seen this figure, this $168 million figure, and I understand that that may change either up or down according to the mayor as a result of the feasibility study. But is there any way we could get more information, maybe from someone at the city, on what this $168 million figure currently is estimated to cover? Would that be the total cost? Is that just a portion of the cost? And then also, if we could get some additional information of the Category 3 public-private partnership funds. I think I heard that we hope that no other funding for other projects will be affected, but is that something that can be guaranteed? How exactly would the Category 3 public-private partnership funds come into play, and can we state with certainty that other projects are not going to be affected?
Go ahead, Mr. Grable.
Commissioner, this is
Those
Eduardo.
are mine.
Yeah, so, Category 3 is sort of like a catch-all category for all the private funds that are, used for transportation projects. So, it's a very generic category. So, that's the first answer to your question. The second answer about guaranteeing any funding, well, I don't think we can guarantee anything. Nothing at this point, because until we know more about the project. But I sincerely, I'd be surprised if we were even able to use some of our traditional funding sources for transportation projects for the deck. As I said before, there are other federal funding sources that could be tapped in. But again, until we have more details and more information about as a project is developed and we get a better idea of what the deck really is. Because again, right now it's a concept. I would be surprised that if we would even be eligible to use other funds.
Any other comments?
So I guess that's what is confusing to me. We're being asked to modify our long-range planning document. However, that's being done before the feasibility study. We have no idea what the feasibility study is going to actually say. I mean, what if it turns out it's not feasible at all, but yet we're being asked to modify our long-term plans? So that it just seems completely counterintuitive to me. And I understand, I think someone said it was just a formality and it's something that has to be done. But honestly, it to me, it's completely counterintuitive. And that's my biggest concern.
Well,
Let
let me.
Those are my comments.
This is the way that transportation projects are done. We start with concepts and, hopefully good concepts. But as we develop the projects or these concepts into more tangible things, yeah, we even go through the NEPA process. And of course, the deck even will have to go later through a NEPA process where you evaluate different alternatives, including no build, right? But at this point, if the feasibility study or the NEPA process in the future determines that we shouldn't build it for whatever reason, then we don't build it. We lose nothing at this point, right?
And what you're saying, I think, is these are all regulations that we have to comply with.
Exactly.
And it's not something that we can control.
Exactly.
It's a process.
Exactly right. So even back to the Border Highway East, it's a concept that has been looked at, through the PEL, which is a high-level feasibility study. And so, yeah, so we start determining, with a better idea of what are the implications, the order of magnitude, right? So that's how every big project is done. You start with a concept, and then little by little you start working on it. You get a better idea, order of magnitude, and then if it moves forward, then you get into the NEPA, the preliminary engineering, where you get into more details. And then, of course, the final stage, which is final design, that's where you decide whether the columns are going to be square or round, or if it's going to be green or yellow, to that level of detail, right?
Okay, thank you.
And so is there someone who's available from either the city or the foundation to talk about that $168 million, that price tag, that estimated price tag? Can we get more information on what that consists of? Is that the total potential? And I understand that may change, it may go up, it may go down, but just to get a better idea of where that figure came from and what it includes as of right now.
Madam Chair, I don't know if Tracy Young is on still, you can call on her, but my understanding of the number, how he came up with it, the Paso Norte Health Foundation, in conjunction with City Health, multiple meetings with the public to develop concepts. that included the actual structure of the deck itself and some of the elements that were proposed on top of the deck. The discussion as to the buttresses for the actual bridge itself, the deck, it's still in discussion as to whether it would be included with this project or it would be included with the actual textile project. And that's how that number of preliminary guidance and cost estimate came about.
Thank you. Any other comment, questions? So what you want us to do at this point, Mr. Caldwell, is just deal with 4 and then deal with 5A next?
Yes.
Okay. So hearing that there is no other comments, questions, then is there a motion to approve item 4 on the agenda?
Move to approve. Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Anybody?
Aye.
Anybody
Yes,
against?
opposed, yes.
Okay, I
Yes.
hear one person opposed, for the
That's
record.
Commissioner O'Neill.
All right, thank you, the item passes. Now we go to item 5. How do you want to do these various items in 5, consider each one separately? Mr. Caldwell?
Yes, if we could consider 5A separately.
And then go jointly with the rest. And you'll explain them?
Yeah, I'll explain.
Okay, so now, is there any, okay, for item 5A, for the record?
Right. So item 5A is to amend the Destino 2045 MTP, amended Destino 2045 MTP, and the Destino 2021-2024 TIP to A, program the Downtown Deck Plaza Planning Study Project using raised grant program funds and Category 3 local contribution funds in fiscal year 2022.
Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, I have an amendment if I can make to the amount. It's the total amount should be $1,260,000, and that is comprised of $900,000 federal share, $180,000 of local share money from the city, and $180,000 capital money from the local contribution, which would be the Casa Mental Health Foundation.
Okay, I've got a question. There's no specific amounts under item 5A. At this point, do we need that type of amendment?
I believe it's in the backup. I'm looking at it.
So we do need an amendment then for the new amounts? Sergio?
So it's not part of the motion that was being proposed by everyone. However, if numbers need to be corrected in the backup material, I don't think we need to amend the main motion.
Okay.
But I would like for Mr. Sam Rodriguez to correct the numbers in the record as he just did, but if you can do that again.
All right, so then you will correct it in the backup material, but the way it's worded on the.
So in the backup material, we do have the details. So.
And the total numbers that you have on here are correct. It's the sum of, so if you look at 1.08 is incorrect. Because when you add 900,000 plus 180 plus 180, it's 1.26 million.
Okay, that is indeed something that needs to be corrected.
Okay, but do we need an amendment for it then? Just an amendment to correct the figures, or
No.
we don't?
The backup material is meant to inform the discussion. With that correction, I don't know if that changes the board's desire
Okay.
to discuss this or not. The main motion as posted in our agenda remains the same.
Thank you for that, because I wasn't clear reading the item on the agenda.
Yeah, so what doesn't change is the amount of federal funds, which is still 900,000.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I think we're good.
Any further discussion on the change that's gonna be listed as a backup?
Gabriela with the EPMPO, I don't think the amount is incorrect, it's just that the first amount is showing the total, and then the split of which is the federal share and then the local share, and then there's an additional 180,000 of local contribution, but we're not showing the total funding amount, which is what is being stated.
So no need to make any
No.
amendment? All right, thank you. So I think it's good to have that clarification to make sure that we're doing the right thing. All right, is there a motion to approve item 5A on the agenda?
Second.
Motion to approve. All right, so there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody
Aye.
against? The motion passes.
No, yeah, no, you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We are now on item 5B, and please tell us how you want want to take, those items?
Chair, I'm not sure if you want to take the public comment before or after, but we have.
Oh, there's public comment on specifically on this one?
For 5B and 5C.
All right, so let's follow the same practice and do it before.
All right, so let me read item 5B and C to the record. Item 5B is to move the bicycle infrastructure citywide project using category 5 CMAQ funds from fiscal year 2022 to fiscal year 2027. And C, move the downtown bicycle improvements phase one project using category 5 CMAQ funds from fiscal year 2022 to fiscal year 2024.
Okay, we're ready for public comment.
Mr. Scott White? He's
Mi-
on team.
Mr. White?
White, you're on.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Transportation Policy Board, those listening in. I am Scott White with El Paso Bicycle Pedestrian Coalition, and after listening to the discussion about item 4, there were several things just incredibly disturbing that I was hearing when we're talking about populations that are being underserved, that are not being represented, that projects are not being delayed, and yet projects being described here, the citywide bicycle program and the downtown bicycle phase 1 are being delayed, and we don't know why. And when we talk about connectivity as an issue that we want to prioritize, this is a way to deprioritize connectivity because we do not have a connected, safe, protected bike network in this city. We've been working to get one. It was the vision laid out in the El Paso Bicycle Plan of 2016. And at that time, it was expected that $100 million would completely build out a very robust and connected bike network. And now we're hearing that another project is getting moved ahead of this that was not even envisioned then at that time. And that's fine. But these bike lanes that actually impact the area next to where this project is being, the widening of downtown is being proposed, actually negatively impacts the connectivity of the community. It means people who walk and bike, ride scooters, who want to use the businesses downtown, who want to shop, want to work there, do not have safe transportation options in the downtown area. As we push these projects back, we are saying it's more important to drive to downtown than to walk, to bike, to take transit. These kind of projects are not being prioritized, even though they are the kind of projects that actually do help improve our air quality. They do mitigate the air pollution and the particulate matter. These are being proposed, both these bike projects are being proposed under CMAQ, which is expressly designed to help mitigate congestion, to help mitigate air pollution. And we're pushing these projects back. And they are on the books. This is not a matter of, and no disrespect to the people who live in the Mission Valley, because they have an absolute need to be able to receive the transportation projects they need as well. But we need transportation projects that serve our entire community. And we're not doing
Mr. White,
that.
your 3 minutes, please wrap up.
Yes, sir. So I ask you, one, why are these projects being delayed? And two, why these should be separated out and voted against. We need these kind of projects because they've been delayed time and time again. It's time to prioritize the safety and the connectivity and the ability of people who walk, bike, and use transit. Make sure their projects are brought to the forefront as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any more? Another person signed up for?
Mr. Scott White for 5C.
For 5C.
Okay, all right, so then now we can go ahead and move forward with 5B and 5C. Mr. Frankel? Is there anything else?
We read it into the record, B and C, right? Well, just to mention, and Sam, if you want to maybe talk a little bit about that. the reason why these projects were moved out is a combination of cash flow, in the sense that, you know, when the CMAQ funds, when we looked at the CMAQ funds, you know, we realized that we were over-programmed. So in working with all the partners, specifically with the City of El Paso and Sun Metro, you know, it was agreed that these projects were moved. In other words, we kept other projects, or the agencies agreed to keep other projects and then move these into the outer years. As we know, the funding in for these categories, including Category 5, we may get a boost once the federal the infrastructure bill materializes and we get more funding. That if more funding, or when more funding becomes available, many of these projects would be able to come back. But at this point, you know, we need to move them out.
Thank you. Any?
Yeah, Madam Chair, there's nothing else to add. To me, it's just a matter of constraining program at this point, and these are the projects that are kind of further out in the development process. The group, the TPAC, recommended that we move push those out.
Any questions, any further discussion on items specifically? We will take them separately, Mr. Carville, or together?
B and C will probably
be together. Okay, any further questions on 5B and C comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve items 5B?
Motion to approve.
Okay, all right, is there a second? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? They both pass, thank you. Now we can move to item D.
Okay.
I
think we're good. All right, Madam Chair, I would suggest taking items E, E, and F together, since they are pretty much related.
Okay.
Okay. So item 5B is to amend the Sean Haggerty Drive Extension Project to add Category 7 CRRSAA funds and reduce Category 7 SDPMM funds in fiscal year 2023. E, amend the North Darrington Reconstruction Project to add Category 7 CRRSAA funds, reduce Category 7 SDPMM funds, and move from fiscal year 2022 to fiscal year 2023. And F, amend the John Hayes Darrington Bearville Construction Project Phase 1 project to add Category 7 CRRSAA funds, reduce Category 7 SDPMM funds, and move from fiscal year 2022 to fiscal year 2023.
Are you going to discuss it?
Yeah, so a little bit of background. These three projects received the about $7 million that we received earlier this year from the COVID relief fund. Okay, so they came to us as Category 7, but again, these are a little bit different in the sense that they are 100% federal. Only these $7 million, as opposed to the traditional Category 7 that has a 20% match. So when we discussed it with a group and then through TPAC, and we figured out that the best way to use that $7 million was to distribute it among these three projects. The $7 million also comes with some restrictions in the sense that they have to be obligated before the end of fiscal year 24. So they needed to be programmed into projects that are currently in the pipeline. So these three, trying to play ball with everybody, these three projects, were the logical projects to program. Now, by doing that, we were able to pull out some of the traditional Category 7 that we can use for other projects. So it was it's a win-win.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve items 5, D, E, and F? Motion, are you a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
The motion passes for approval of C, E, and F.
Right.
go now to item 5G.
Item 5G is to amend the Rio Grande Trail Phase 2 project to add Coronavirus Special Authority urbanized CSAL funds and reduce Category 3 local contribution funds in fiscal year 2022. Gabby, do you want to?
Good morning, Gabriela Lopez with Rio Pasantillo. Similar to the items that were just approved, this is the version of the CRISA funds that were received to the state, from the state of New Mexico for the MPO. So these are the funds that are awarded to us for the COVID aid, and we awarded them to our Rio Grande Trail project that we have, which is sponsored by the city of Sun and Park. They did have a very large local contribution, more than $500,000. So this is really going to help out to reduce that local contribution that the sponsor had to come up with to fund the project completely. So if there's any questions.
No questions, and is there any motion to approve item 5G? Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Now we move on to item 6.
Item 6 is to amend the Passmore Road Shared Use Path Project to increase Category 9 Transportation Alternative Set Aside TASA funds in fiscal year 2022, with a note that this is a TASA group project. And Gabby will provide some background on this.
Good morning, Gabriela Lopez with Rio Pasantillo. Yes, so during November 18, 2021, we did receive a request from the city to request additional funds for this project. This project originally had $780 with TASA funds to do the whole Passmore Road shared use path. However, we received a request for an additional $240,000. Right before the TPAC meeting where this item was to be approved, we did hear from the city that they were going to request additional funds to cover for the construction engineering cost as well. So the item was approved at TPAC contingent on the confirming the final amount that was going to be requested by the city. And once we did receive that updated request on December 13th, we also included as part of the backup a financial summary to show how this would impact our Category 9 TASA funding. So the total additional funds requested are $390,040, which would therefore leave the project, I guess that increase would leave our balance for Category 9 TASA to be $251,531. So this is able to be covered for the project. There's no other projects that could compete for these funds. This went through our I guess through our MPO project call, which was a competitive process. And the next scoring project scored a 6 points out of 100. So I guess this would still be a better use for the TASA funds. As a reminder, if we don't use our TASA funds, we do lose them. So this is why we are recommending that this funds be added.
Any questions? Thank you. Is there a motion to approve item 6 on the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second? Are you a second? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Against? Motion passes. We now move on to reports and discussions, starting with item 7.
All right, so item 7 is the administrative amendment to the Mexico 404 widening project.
Good morning, Gabriela. This is again with Rio Pasantillo. So we did receive a request from the New Mexico Department of Transportation to do an urgent administrative amendment. We usually do have these administrative amendments be part of the action items on the agenda. However, this had to be done because it was time sensitive. And the amendment is to replace $8,818,077 of the state legislative funds with the National Highway Performance Program funds. There's no change to the total funding of the project, and included in the backup is the TIP page, which reflects the amendment that has been completed in both the TIP, the 21 to 24 TIP, the SEMA 2045 NTP, amended the SEMA 2045 NTP, as well as the new Metro STIP.
Thank you. We now move on. Any questions on this discussion? No. All right. Item 8.
All right,
That was very easy. New Mexico gets away with it.
What do they
Very
get this
simple.
gig?
Yeah.
Why do they get this gig?
I know. Right. Okay. All right, item 8 on the
Item
agenda.
number 8 is the Regional Mobility Strategy, RMS 2050, MTP, TIP, and Transportation Conformity Report, TCR, schedule update. And Harris and Ford will provide the update.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Harrison Ford with El Paso MPO. On the screen, you see the up-to-date schedule for our approval completion of these documents. MPO staff is working furiously to get 100% drafts ready in time for them to be on backup for the TPAC agenda, which that meeting is on January 5th, as well as the next TPB meeting, January 21st. And so the point there is that we have something that is nearly complete for the committee and the board members to review and discuss at the meeting. On January 24th, we are planning to begin the public comment period, during which the public can review the document and provide comments, and obviously we'll make changes necessary before bringing it back for approval to the recommendation to TPAC and approval by the TPB in the March set of meetings. Once the documents are approved by the TPB, then we can submit for the true approval at the state and federal levels. So that's a summary of the schedule and what we're expecting moving forward. Any questions?
I guess the question would be, are we gonna make it or not?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. That's what we need to hear.
Right, we have moved it back a few times over the course of the fall, but we're very close on the documents. As I say, staff is putting in a lot of time to complete these documents in time for the TPAC agenda to get posted. That's going to be late December. So.
Okay, thank you, Harrison.
Let me add something, and to put it in perspective and to the presentation, the training presentation that we had.
Okay.
So all the documents that Todd was describing, as part of the conformity process, that's exactly what we're doing. So we have to complete the new long-range plan, the 2050 RMS, a new TIP that is consistent with a new plan, and the corresponding conformity documentation. So all of that, we're finalizing the documents that we will present, as Harrison explained, to TPAC and TPB. Sort of like, and once we get the green light from you all, from the policy board, then we'll initiate the 30-day public comment period, right? And then after the public comment period, we will come back and address, respond to all the comments, and hopefully, that will not take a long time, so that we can finalize the documents and then submit it to the consultative partners. That's one process dealing with Federal Highway, EPA, TCEQ, and all the other partners, so that they can review the conformity document. Okay. Again, all of that should happen before, well, we should get the approval before November of 2022, because that's when the four-year clock expires. We feel very good, but we don't control the consultative partners, right? So we are trying to give them as much time as possible to review. They always have questions, even though we're doing our best to do QA, quality control, quality assurance on our documents before we send them out to avoid reviews, multiple back and forth, because that's really where we spend a lot of time. But we feel good that we'll be able to get that conformity determination before November. But again, it's not necessarily up to us; it's up to the consultative partners.
Thank you. Any questions for Harrison? All right, thank you. Then item 9.
Right. Item 9 is the RMS 2020 project status report. Again, this is the same monthly report that we provide to you all for the RMS 2020 priority projects that are moving forward. So again, there's some questions on these projects that were highlighted in the readiness report that was presented earlier. I don't think it's anything major. It's just minor things that need to be addressed, but overall, all projects are moving forward, and so that's a good thing.
Thank you. Item 10.
All right, so item 10, the executive director report. I just have a couple of things. The first is the approval of the conformity for the amendments that we already talked about. That's a really good thing, because there was a couple of projects that needed to in order for them to move forward, including the Loop 1 or the Loop 375 expansion project from Spur 601 to Montana. That's actually the project that got delayed for multiple reasons. Well, not multiple, a big utility that needed to be adjusted. That's what triggered the amendment. So that project is now ready to go in May, I believe. And so it's very timely that we get the conformity so that can move forward. That said, can we move on to the next one? Right. The next is a memo that will circulate. Well, it's now in the backup information, but we'll circulate that provides a little more information on the bipartisan infrastructure bill, or the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act. Describes a little more details on how the funds are going to be distributed. The big thing the big takeout is that even though the bill has been signed, Congress has not funded the IIJA, right? We're still, as of today, we're still operating on a continuous resolution for the FAST Act, which is, the good news is that at least, there's federal money flowing, right? The bad news is that we're still not at the levels of the IIJA, which is, we're expecting additional federal money to come in to our region. So, we'll circulate that. It's in the backup information now. If you're more than welcome to read it, and if you have any questions, please let us know. We'll be more than happy to try to answer these.
All right, I want to thank you all. We try to run a quick meeting. I know most of us have been here close to 3 hours. I really appreciate you all coming and attending and participating. There is somebody's raising their, go ahead.
I just, this is, Mayor Trujillo. I just wanted to give not farewell, but happy retirement to Chuck Beckman. He's leaving this year, so just wanted to say that as a county commissioner for District 2, I represent as well. So we're really going to greatly miss him as well on that.
All right, yeah, thank you. Thanks for being here. I mean, it's right holiday season, and we really appreciated your service on the policy board. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, and so it's been a long meeting, so I'm just gonna say happy holidays and a great new year, and we will see you all in January. A motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, second?